Alright guys, Season 3 of My Hero Ultra Rumble has just launched, and after just a week of playing the new season, it seems like players have come to a consensus on where these characters should be placed in the new tier list. So there are quite a few characters who are going to be moving around, and we will also be placing the new quirk skill set for Deku for the very first time. So let's go ahead and take a look at how people have voted. So right here we have the original Deku's kit, where he is A tier, okay? And then below that, we have Midoriya quirk skill set 2, where we have the full bullet, right? And it seems like not much has changed. The voting is almost exactly the same between his original kit and his new kit. Why is this? I don't know. I feel like this new kit would be relatively good in the new map, UA Island, but apparently people feel like it's still just kind of A material, not quite S, not as good as Todoroki, obviously, because Todoroki is freaking broken still with his ice hitbox, which they haven't addressed, right? But for now, we're gonna go ahead and put this Deku up here in A tier. So that's where he's gonna go, right next to his counterpart. So we have the red Deku and the yellow Deku both in A tier for My Hero Ultra Rumble so far. Next, we have Bakugo. Bakugo is going to be staying in S tier. He's overwhelmingly in S tier according to the pie chart and the way people voted. Then we have Uraraka. Uraraka is going to be staying in A tier, where she is currently at right now. Then we have All Might, who's also going to be staying in A tier. And then here we have a big shakeup though. This one surprised me genuinely, and it makes me very, very happy. From where this character started to where he is now, people are putting Isawa into A tier. That is crazy to me, because he was like D to C to B, and now he's worked his way all the way up to A tier. So we're going to take Isawa and move him from B tier up to A tier, and man, does that feel good. I've actually been playing him a lot more this season myself, and there's a lot of maneuverability you have with him in this new map. So he is actually a lot of fun to use. So Isawa is, I agree, he is A tier for right now. He is very, very good. Okay, and then below that we have Mountain Lady. Mountain Lady was getting a little bit closer. She's actually very divided. We have like a lot of people who said S, a lot of people who said B, a lot of people who said A, but overall the majority lean towards A tier, and that's where she is right now. So she is going to stay there. Then we had Cementos. Cementos was also pretty close to being B tier. However, we had a few more people vote for A tier, so he is going to stay in A tier for right now. Then we had Dobby. Dobby is a character who I feel like needs some help, man. He needs that quirk skill set as soon as possible. But yeah, he's in B tier still. They haven't really touched him. They haven't really done anything with him. And on the new map, I feel like he even might struggle a little bit more on the new map, because there's so much like up and down and movement and stuff like that compared to the USJ map, which I would argue is a little bit more flat. And since people are able to get above Dobby, his ring of fire that goes around him that blocks projectiles just isn't quite as useful. So personally, I do think he's like B tier or maybe even C tier. They need to do something with him, right? But there's plenty of people who still think he's A, plenty of people who still think he's S. However, we did have, I would say, more this time that thought he was C than we had previously. And I think a lot of that is due to the new map. And then we have Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress, I don't really understand people putting him in B tier myself. I think he's an A tier character. I think he's very good. I think his escapability is insane. I think his ability to reflect enemy shots is freaking broken. And if you use him right with a team, he can definitely be A tier. But maybe hopping in solo, I could see him being B. So I'll give you the B tier, but that's where he already was. So we're going to leave Compress in B tier. Then we have Kirishima. I think people have started to realize that Kirishima is crazy broken. Okay, so previously he was like B tier. This is another character that started low, then he went up to A, and now we have a majority of people saying Kirishima is S tier. And you know what? I gotta agree. I don't know why it took us so long to realize that Kirishima was S tier, but hey, we finally did it. We moved him up to S tier where he belongs with these other characters. He's kind of crazy, does a lot of damage, and doesn't take a lot of damage himself. He's actually really pretty good, you know? And if you disagree with any of these ideas, if you disagree that Kirishima is not S tier, make sure you vote on the tier list. I put up a community post about it. I will also link the tier list in the description below. So if you would like to vote for the next time we do a tier list, make sure you go and do that. All right, so below Kirishima, we have Endeavor. Endeavor, people are saying, is still A tier. Nobody really thinks he's S. We actually have a lot of people thinking he is B tier now, which is just crazy. But I think Endeavor is still A tier, and that's obviously what most people think. And so A tier is where he is going to stay. And then below Endeavor, we have Ibra. Ibra is another character I would argue needs a new quirk skill set, or needs some help with her current quirk skill set to make her a little bit better. But she is overwhelmingly B tier. We have a few people who think she's C, a few people who think she's A, and then like 2 or 3 who think she's D or S. It's interesting to see what people think, but yeah, she's going to be staying in B tier. Then we have Momo. Momo is currently in A tier, and overwhelmingly people have voted for her to stay there, so that's where I think she will stay. Same with Kaminari. Kaminari is also going to be A tier, but we actually had a few more people voting this time to put him up into S, which was surprising. So maybe Kirishima will eventually become an S tier character. Kaminari will eventually become an S tier character like Kirishima. That's what I meant to say. So maybe Kaminari will step up here in the future, but for now, he will be staying in A tier. Then we have Ida. Ida, look at that split. Look at that split. It's so close. It's so close. Ida is almost an S tier, which I would agree with. A good Ida is S tier. A mediocre regular Ida who hops in, A tier, okay? So it just depends on what type of Idas you're going up against, but I agree he is A tier for now, and that is where Ida currently is. He's over here behind my face cam, but there's Ida. He's going to be A tier, and maybe in the future weeks he'll move back up to S tier. He's kind of a character who's always gone back and forth between S and A tier, right? So I'm happy with him where he's at. And just a reminder, this tier list is not in any particular order because Ida's down here at the bottom. Does not mean he's like worse than all these other characters in A tier, just for reference. Okay, after that we have Kendo. Kendo is going to be in B tier. That's where she already is. That's where she'll stay. We'll see if anything ever happens with her to make her better. They did give her a speed buff, which I think made her better a while back, but she's still not as good as the other characters, right? Shigaraki is overwhelmingly in A tier, and I shouldn't say overwhelmingly because this is overwhelmingly. Shigaraki is decently in A tier. Todoroki is overwhelmingly in S tier, like even more than Bakugo's used to look like this. Now it's all Todoroki. Todoroki is just freaking insane with his ice slide. The hitbox on it is crazy. His ability to burn people, like he's good. He's very, very good, okay? So Todoroki is going to be an S tier. That's where he already is. That's where he will stay. Then we have Toga. Toga is still going to remain in S tier. I have made this argument for a long time. Toga can be any character in the game. Besides having a strong base kit, she can have Todoroki's kit if she changes into him, and then have an even more broken kit, right? So Toga is still really, really good. I think she'll always be one of those S tier characters no matter what. Just my opinion. And then last but not least, we have Sue. We had 44% of people say Sue was A tier, and then we had 36% of people say she was S tier. However, previously, Sue had been put into B tier by the community, so that means Sue gets to move up to A tier. Wow, crazy. I know she got buffed a little bit. I don't think she's S tier worthy. I will say that now, but I do think she's A tier worthy. I've said that for a while. Like she's a decent character, right? So we'll move Sue up, and Sue is now in A tier where she belongs. And you may be thinking, how can you have all the characters at the top of a tier list like this? That doesn't work that way. Tier lists don't work that way. Well, in this case, the developers have done a fairly decent job balancing the characters. Are they perfect? No. Have they touched the characters they should have touched and like worked on? Not always. Have they worked on characters they shouldn't have touched? Yes. But overall, it's not terrible. Okay, the balancing is pretty dang good. So shout out to the devs on that. You have made a pretty balanced game for a battle royale game. All the characters feel good to play. None of them feel terrible. The only time a character would be down in D tier is like Isawa when he came out, very glitchy. He felt terrible to play. He went in D tier, right? But none of the characters are like that. They're all fairly balanced. They all work the way they're supposed to. So yeah, I'm happy with putting the characters where they are. And last but not least, on the pie chart, I like to ask this question: what console do people play on? That way we kind of have an idea of how people are voting. We had quite a few people playing on Xbox. We had the majority of people playing on PlayStation. We had what was this? Oh, that was PC before. So we had a few. So let's go the most amount of people were playing on PlayStation. Then we had the second most on PC, third most on Xbox, fourth most on Switch, and then apparently we had 2 people playing on something else. I don't know. But yeah, so you can kind of understand where these votes are coming from. Majorly going to be PlayStation players, but then we had quite a few PC and Xbox players as well. So hopefully you guys agree with this tier list. Once again, if you don't, go down to the description below, click the link, and vote for yourself. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.